In our last classes, we've studied allophones of English plosives, p, b, t, d, k, g. Now we'll shift to Spanish and we'll analyze the allophones of Spanish voiced occlusives, b, d, g. As you can see, they are not called plosives in Spanish. They are called occlusives. Why? Because in their production, the air doesn't go out with explosion as it does in English. And we'll analyze how these allophones in Spanish sometimes make you make mistakes because you transfer these allophones, these Spanish allophones, to English. So when you speak English, you pronounce it using the Spanish allophones. Let's see how this works. Before we plunge into the allophones, we'll read the following text. And I've highlighted with different colors the different realizations of the voiced occlusives. The realizations of the in red, of g in brown, and b in green. Now I'll read it, and please pay attention to the different realizations of b, da, g in Spanish. El domingo pasado estuve con Gabriela y Aldana comiendo sushi en un restaurante japonés. Debíamos celebrar por tantos años de amistad. Grande era el lugar. Todo estaba muy bien ambientado. Había grandes almohadones en donde sentarse y hasta mozas japonesas. Cuando llegó el momento de brindar, Aldana tuvo la brillante idea de decir chin chin. De repente todas nos dimos cuenta de que las mozas la estaban mirando. Bueno, ¿qué habré dicho?, nos preguntó Aldana. Fue al día siguiente que logró saber el significado de esta expresión y algo aprendió. Nunca más diría chin chin. Diría directamente salud. Now, if we pay attention to the realization of da, the phoneme in Spanish is da. But when you produce it in different ways. Let's see. El domingo, el domingo. As you can see there, the phoneme da, which by the way is dental in Spanish, it's not alveolar. In English it's da alveolar, in Spanish it's dental. Da. Your tongue has to articulate with your upper teeth. El domingo. The blade of the tongue is touching your upper teeth, right? El domingo. And there is contact. El do. Try saying it, please. El domingo. Now, pasado. Okay, when you say pasado, in this case, the da, el pasado, your tongue, the tip and blade, is not touching your teeth. It's far away from your teeth. Why? Because it's realized differently. We say it's realized as the fricative as in this in English, right? So, el do, there, it's realized as an occlusive, da, because there is contact. But here, pasado, as an approximative fricative. There is no contact between the tip and tongue and blade of the tongue and the upper teeth. Aldana. Again, Aldana. There is contact there. Da. You can feel the contact between your tongue and your teeth. Why is that? Because it's preceded by the lateral aldana. The same here, el domingo. while here pasado, pasado, because it occurs between vowels, it's realized as a fricative or approximant. So we don't say in Spanish pasado, pasado, we say pasado. There's no contact between the tip and blade of the tongue and the teeth. And let's move on to comiendo, comiendo, do, do, do. There is contact there. It's realized as an occlusive. Why? Because it's preceded by the nasal. Comiendo, comiendo. Now, if we try pronouncing it with the fricative, you'll see that it's very difficult. Comiendo, comiendo. Right? Why? Because for the tongue is already making contact with the palate. So it's easier to go on making contact. So we say comiendo, comiendo. But if we say comiendo, we have to detach the tongue from the palate, and that makes it harder. So we've seen that the phoneme the, which is abstract, is realized as an occlusive with contact when it's preceded by the lateral or by the nasal. So we say el domingo, we say aldana, we say comiendo. If it occurs between vowels, it's realized as a fricative. We don't say pasado, we say pasado. So in pasado, there's no contact between the articulators. Let's move on to the second line. Debíamos celebrar. How is the phoneme realized in this case? Debíamos or debíamos? Okay, as an occlusive. Why? Because it occurs in absolute initial position. So we say debíamos celebrar. ¿Dónde? ¿De qué? Right? So when it occurs in initial position, it's realized as an occlusive with complete closure of the articulators. Años de amistad. There it occurs in absolute final position. Some people will pronounce it amistad, amistad, as an occlusive because there is contact, amistad, 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 as a fricative. And some people, if they are not speaking very carefully, will probably elide it, suppress it, and say amistad, amistad. Right, let's go on. Todo, 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 todo. It's realized as a fricative. There's no contact. Why? Because it occurs between vowels. Ambientado, ambientado. Again, it occurs between vowels, so it's realized as a fricative. There's no contact between the tip and blade of the tongue and the upper teeth. Grandes, grandes, da, da, da. There is contact. It's realized as an occlusive because it's preceded by the nasal. Grande, grande. Almohado, almohado. It's realized as a fricative because it occurs between vowels. En donde, en donde, en do. Even though it's followed by vowel, it's realized as an occlusive. Why? Because it's preceded by nasal. En do, en donde. Again, there. Donde, donde. As an occlusive. Because in both cases, it's preceded by a nasal. Cuando. It's realized as an occlusive because it's preceded by a nasal. Okay, we have another example there. Brindar, brindar, as an occlusive. Aldana, as an occlusive because it's preceded by the lateral. Idea, 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 right? Idea, idea, right? It's preceded, it's surrounded by vowels, so it's realized as a fricative. Idea, fricative. That's why when you speak English, you tend to say idea, idea. Well, in English, da is always da It's idea, da, da, even if it occurs between vowels. So sometimes we transfer the allophones to English and we say idea, but it's idea, idea. In Spanish, idea. In English, idea. It's always da. Right. De repente, again in absolute initial position, it's realized as an occlusive. Well, and then you can go on. So you see, in some contexts, it's realized as an occlusive. Da, preceded by the lateral, preceded by the nasal, or in absolute initial position. In these environments, this is the allophone we have to produce. We can't produce another allophone. So we say that in these cases, this allophone, the occlusive, occurs in complementary distribution, because this is the only allophone we have to produce. But in absolute final position, we can choose, we can produce the occlusive, amistad, the fricative, amistad, or we can elide it all together, right? So it's up to the speaker. So in absolute final position, the allophone or the allophones, the different choices, occur in free variation. Now let's move on to the allophones of ba, 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 ba. Right. Estuve, estuve. It's highlighted in green. Estuve. As you can see in spelling, we have, look at this. Look at the letter. But we don't say estuve. We say estuve, estuve, because that's how we pronounce it in Spanish. Estuve. So, is it an occlusive or a fricative? Well, it's realized as a fricative. Because it occurs between vowels. Estuve, estuve, estuve. Gabriela, Gabriela, as a fricative, because it occurs between a vowel and a consonant. No problem. Celebrar, 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 as a fricative. There's no contact between my lips. There's friction, right? So, as a fricative, because it occurs between a vowel and a consonant. Estaba, estaba, fricative, because it occurs between vowels. Muy bien, muy bien, muy bien. You see the environment? It's the phoneme is surrounded by vowels, so it's realized as a fricative. While here, ambientado, ambientado, it's realized as an occlusive because it's preceded by a nasal. All right. Bueno, bueno. In absolute initial position, it's realized as an occlusive. So, again, the phoneme B is realized as an occlusive in absolute initial position, for example, bueno, after a nasal, ambientado, and when it occurs between vowels or between a vowel and a consonant, it's realized as a fricative. Estaba, estaba. And the same applies to the phoneme G. If it occurs in absolute initial position, it's realized as an occlusive. Grande, grande. If it occurs preceded by a nasal, it's realized as an occlusive too. Un gran lugar, un gran lugar. But if it occurs between vowels, for example, logro, logro, it's realized as fricative, logro, or significado, significado, because it's preceded by a vowel there, right? Significado. And, okay, so in all of these cases, they occur in complementary distribution because they are conditioned by the environment.